late chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, so today is session number 26, and we are going to discuss verse number we are going to discuss verse number 26 and 27. Yeah, so a very quick revision, like verses to 122, we had a step-by-step guide to self-realization, which included like karma yoga, bhakti yoga, what was that? Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and then Jnana Yoga. So those were verses 1 to 22, and it lays down the entire process. And we have also started like taking one path at a time. So we have covered Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, a quick revision as to what exactly is to be done, because like all this is okay, but one needs to know what is to be done, and that's why we started that parallelly Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So that is from verse number 121 to 22, step-by-step guide to self-realization. And now from verse 29, 23 onwards, we are trying to understand what this status is, because it is a different kind of state. It is actually like third highest level of reality that we reach when we realize our own true self. And it's very difficult to understand who have not reached that stage. Even like simple things like if you like certain dish, maybe gulab jamun or something, you cannot really describe the taste of a gulab jamun. So this self-realization, which is very, very subtle and highest level of reality, it's very difficult to understand. But an attempt is being made to tell actually what it is when you reach that state, and that we have started from 23 onwards. So verse 23, like we are so used to like something using some kind of illuminator to see things in this world. Like during the daytime, there is sun which illumines everything. During daytime, during night, we have light which with the help of which we are able to see things. So one of the question is like this consciousness, like it illumines everything in this world. It provides sentiency to everything in this world. So do you need some other media to see this? And the answer is no. Uh, and the other question one may have is like when we talk about Brahman, we always talk about two attributes, existence and consciousness. So are these two things different? Because for all worldly things, whatever properties we see, whatever properties we talk about, like uh, like for flower, freshness and fragrance. So out of these two, one may be there and the other may not be there. But when it comes to Brahman, there is nothing like existence and consciousness being two separate things. It is existence plus consciousness, because if uh, if there is only existence and there is no consciousness, then such a thing would be inert. Whereas if there is consciousness but no existence, then like actually it doesn't have any meaning, because it's there is something which doesn't have existence. So one needs to understand that when we talk about existence and consciousness as two attributes of Brahman, it is actually one and the same, and that is what is my higher nature. So that was verse 23 telling us something, elaborating these attributes of Brahman. Then in verse 24, like we understand that everything, all the objects in this world as well as myself, we have two natures, like higher nature and lower nature. And and like lower nature of different things, different objects in this world, as well as people around me may be different, because lower nature is nothing but name and form, but higher nature of everything is same, and this higher nature in the context of an individual is called jiva, and the same consciousness in the context of totality, the entire world, all the objects and beings, it is called Ishvara. So even though the lower nature of these may be different, the higher nature or the essence of both of these is same, and that is nothing but Brahman or existence consciousness. And that is what is the supreme reality. In verse number 25, it tells us like how one reaches this higher nature. It is by giving up or discarding all the things that are part of this lower nature, which is like body, mind, and intellect, the five koshas. So when you discard all these, one reaches this state of self-realization. And we also talk about vision of the Lord, Ishvara Darshana. So is it different from this realization of one's own higher nature? It is not. But then, like in Puranas, we hear stories of different bhaktas getting the vision of Lord in a particular form. Like Ganesha Bhakta will get the vision of Ganesha. Krishna Bhakta will get a vision of Krishna in its form. So, what about that? So, this verse tells us that this vision of name and form is only temporary, it comes and goes, so it cannot be absolute reality. Like these bhaktas, when they reach pinnacle of their bhakti, Bhagavan, out of compassion, grants them this vision of name and form, but that is not the ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is knowing that my higher nature is same as Bhagavan, and that is what is the true vision of the Lord, and that is what is God realization. Realizing that God is within me, my higher nature is nothing but same as that of Bhagavan. So that was verse 25. And today we are going to discuss verse number 26. So there is some introduction to this verse. Let me just read it, and then Chanda can read the commentary. Yeah. This is verse 26. Our understanding of a vision, like in the earlier verse, like this verse 25, there is lot of darshana, Atma darshana, Isha darshana. So when it comes to materialistic things, we have a particular understanding of this vision. So our understanding of vision is generally with duality of the seer of the vision and the object seen in the vision. The true meaning of the vision of the self and vision of the Lord is explained thus. So now we are like going to discuss the difference between worldly knowledge and self knowledge. So the first part of this is about vision or experience. So when we are talking about worldly experiences, we are all the time exposed to this world, and we keep experiencing different things, different objects, different beings. So there is an experiencer which we can call as the seer or the subject, and it is also called as pramata. So I'm seeing a particular object in front of me, like there is this cupboard in front of me. So I am the subject and the cupboard is the object. I am the seer, it is seen. I am pramata, like in Sanskrit, the word is pramata, and the object is called prameya. And there is a process of experiencing or medium of experiencing that is seeing. So that is the pramana. So all this needs two things. One is subject or and object, or seer and seen, or pramata and prameya. So for any worldly experience to happen, it needs duality, that is two things. And what it says is the object, that is the scene, need not be a reality. And the simple example is that of a dream. We do experience dream, but it is only for a short period and it keeps changing. So it is not actually real, but still that experience happens. And even in that experience, it needs duality. So when we talk about Brahman or existence consciousness, it is we have been discussing that it is non-dual. There is only consciousness in the world, and what we see is manifestation of this consciousness. So manifestation, when we want to experience, there is duality. So how does one experience this consciousness which is non-dual? And that is what is explained in this Loka number 26. Let me first chant it. आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता. So these are some of the Sanskrit words. Atma or Swa Atma itself. Darshanam, again it is talking about vision. And this vision is nirdvayat, non-dual. And what does it mean? It means sansthiti, abidance, and nishtata is firm abidance. So the literal meaning of this shloka is, since the self is non-dual, the abidance in the self alone is the vision of the self, and the alone is known as firm abidance in the self. Yeah, so let's read this commentary. Chanda, can you read both the paragraphs? They are
Yeah.
very short. Two
Yeah.
paragraphs. Yeah.
The seer or the witness of the object is the self. The seen, the object is not self, is the not self. The seer is one, the seen may be many. The seer, the subject cannot become the seen, the object. Generally, we feel that a vision is not possible without the duality of the seer and the seen. But in Vedanta, the word vision has a technical connotation. Here, vision means knowledge free from duality of the seer and the seen.
Yeah, read the second one.
Okay. The vision of the self is a knowledge that takes root as a direct experience that I am of the nature of pure existence consciousness. This is known as firm abidance in the self. When the limited I notion is renounced, one realizes the self and gets established in it. A wealthy man in his dream imagines himself to be a beggar and consequently goes through all the pains and trials of poverty. When he wakes up, the dream beggar and his miserable dream world, along with the imagined sorrows, disappear. The waker realizes, I am not the beggar, but a wealthy man. Having once realized, he gets firmly established in his true status and revels therein.
Yeah. So actually, like when we were discussing about this discarding of everything that is not self, we said that whatever I am able to experience, that is not me. So that raises a question as to how does one see the self or experience the self. So, because if you are able to experience the self, which is existence, consciousness, and Brahman, then that also cannot be the self. So this question is answered here, and the answer is yeah. And the answer is like when we are identified with our lower nature, which is body, mind, and intellect, like as I said, like we are identified with our lower nature, so we are focused on lower nature everywhere, and lower nature of different things is different, so automatically there is a duality, and one can have a fear and seen required for experiencing anything. I'm talking about duality, but it's actually plurality, because different objects in this world or different beings of the world have different lower nature. So that is what is plurality. So when we are identified with our lower nature, you experience anything because of this duality or plurality. But when you are identified with higher nature, which is existence consciousness, which is non-dual, everything in this world is only existence consciousness. Apart from existence consciousness, nothing exists. If you experience something, it is only an illusion. So, how does one experience this existence consciousness since it is non dual? And the answer is you know this by being that existence consciousness. And earlier verse told us like keep discarding everything that you are experiencing, be a witness of that, and then you abide in this self, and that time actually you get the vision or the experience of this existence consciousness, which is your higher nature. So when we get into meditation, you get glimpses, you get into this state only momentarily. So you get only glimpses of this experience. What is required is constant abidance in this consciousness. Like right now, by default, we abide in body, mind, intellect. We get identified with body, mind, intellect, with all the spiritual sadhanas which purify the mind, and with the constant practice of meditation, you get into this state where this identification with higher nature, the existence consciousness, becomes the default, and and that is what is called abidance in the consciousness. And when you get to this state, your vision, your understanding about yourself and the world changes. And Bhagavad Gita, there are lots of shlokas which actually tell you what this kind of state is and what is the vision of somebody who is constantly abiding in this higher nature. And all these shlokas you can identify with this word yaf pashyati sa pashyati. So the literal meaning of this shloka is one who sees, sees. Okay. So what it means is one who has acquired this jnana shakti, jnana chakshu, the divine vision, only he can have this kind of a vision. Okay. So that is verse 26. Just a moment. Yeah. So this was verse 26, which tells us as to how one can get a vision of the self. And like some people have a misconception that this self, when you get a vision of something of a self, you will develop a halo around it. It is not like really true. It is like it is the abidance in the consciousness, which is what is vision of the self. Now there is second aspect of this, and that is going to be discussed in verse 27. Let me read the introduction to this. Like self-realization, the word self-knowledge also needs explanation. Knowledge of any object is gained as a thought with the help of our intellect. In this world, there are finite number of objects that we know about and innumerable others about which we are ignorant. We generally feel that self-knowledge is the knowledge of the self is like a knowledge of any other object known by our intellect. That is knowledge in the thought of a form. But we are told that self can never become an object of our intellect. It is beyond intellect. How then are we to know it? By what means is self-knowledge gained? Bhagavan answers thus. So that is shloka number 27. And just to elaborate on this paragraph, like I have certain knowledge, I know English language, and that is nothing but through thoughts. I also know that I don't know Chinese, and that again is in the form of thought. So all worldly knowledge is gathered and it builds up thoughts which are stored in the memory, and that is what is knowledge of this world. But we know that even thought is inert, it cannot have an independent existence on its own. It is illumined by consciousness. So the question is how to know this consciousness. Like as I said, everything in this world is manifestation of consciousness. It is illumined by consciousness. So even the mind and intellect is illumined by consciousness. So our mind and intellect can never know this consciousness. Uh, like electricity in the bulb, it exists, but electricity illumines the bulb, and bulb illumines the objects in front of it. But this bulb cannot know the electricity. So similarly, our sense organs or even mind and intellect cannot know this self. So how does one know this consciousness? One part we have already answered, like by being that consciousness, one knows about that consciousness. So this is the second part of it, which talks about the difference between worldly knowledge and self-knowledge. And let me chant this shloka. ज्ञानवर्जिता ज्ञानहीन चेत् ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरम्. So these are some of the words. Jnana and Ajnan, we all know. Varjita and Heen, that is deficient or devoid. Actually, the one can say it is beyond this knowledge or ignorance. It transcends knowledge and ignorance. So is there another knowledge which is required to know this self which is beyond knowledge and ignorance? That is what is the question. And the literal meaning is consciousness is devoid of the thought of knowledge, that is beyond the thought of knowledge, and it is also beyond the thought of ignorance. So is there a knowledge other than consciousness, or there is some other consciousness uh, which is required to know this consciousness which we call as self? And the answer is evident. It is there is none. So let us read the commentary. Yeah, Chanda, can you read the
Yeah.
3 paragraphs? Yeah.
Vedanta proves that the inert cannot know. The intellect, being inert, is incapable of gaining knowledge by itself. In association with consciousness, it acquires an apparent sentiency because of which it is capable of knowing objects. The intellect knows certain objects and does not know others. We all know what we know and also what we do not know. I know my son, and I also know that I do not know what I should do with him. We are aware of both our knowledge and our ignorance. The consciousness that illumines both the thought of knowledge and the ignorance of objects, emotions, and ideas is different and free from them. The illuminator, that is a knower, is always different from the illumined or the known. The self that lends sentiency to the intellect cannot in turn be illumined by the intellect. Then, is there another consciousness which illumines the self? There is none. Also, none is required since the self is self-illuminating. If there were two consciousness, say C1 and C2, then one would become inert since it would be illumined by the other. That is meaningless. Also, we cannot point out any difference between C1 and C2. Therefore, it would be pointless to make such a distinction. Self-knowledge is a realization that I am consciousness, which enables the intellect to know objects. Being self-evident, I illumine both the thoughts of knowledge and ignorance of objects, but I am free from the thoughts and the objects. Understanding thus, we should give up the notion that the self too can be known like any other object as a thought in our mind.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the question is how to know consciousness, because we have already said that consciousness cannot be made an object. It is the ultimate subject. What do I mean by ultimate subject? Like I was describing this experience of seeing this cupboard in front of me. So in this case, our subject is my eyes and the object is the cupboard. Now we can go back. Like we can make this eye as the object. So do I know whether my eyes, there is some problem with my eyes? My eyes are closed. There is a dust particle in this eye. Yes, I definitely know. So since I know the eye is now an object, and who's the subject? Mind is the subject and I is the object. Now, can we make this mind the object of experience? Can I know the thoughts in my mind? Yes, definitely I can experience the thoughts in my mind. And when I do that, I become witness to the thoughts of the mind. Mind becomes the object, and like you have to really try to contemplate who is this subject in this case. So the subject is this existence consciousness which illumines this mind. So can we still go further? We cannot, because existence consciousness is the ultimate subject. It illumines everything in this world. So if you have to know this, the only way is to realize that this existence consciousness which illumines everything in this world is my higher nature. I am this existence consciousness, and that one has to realize. And once you know this existence consciousness, your own higher nature, there is nothing more to be known. It is like knowing everything in this world, because it is the most important thing to know who am I really. Once I know that, I know what is this world. I also know the relationship with this world, and I also know how to transact with this world, which is nothing but my own manifestation. So that is about knowing the consciousness. So, like, if you have a question as to right now I am not Brahman, I am not existence consciousness, but by undertaking all these sadhanas, I will one day become Brahman. That concept itself is wrong, because you are Brahman right now. Whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not, you are Brahman right now. You are existence consciousness right now. So there is nothing to be acquired to you are Brahman right now. It is also not a journey or destination that after you mature, you will become Brahman. You are already Brahman. What you need to do is purify the mind and then you will realize your own true nature. You will realize that you are existence consciousness. So we had discussed about two types of gains. Apraptasya prapti, something to be gained which you don't have right now. So if you have to gain something which you don't have, you need knowledge and actions. Like if I don't have a car, I need to know like what kind of a car I have to buy, how to buy, that is knowledge part. And then I have to take action in order to acquire that car. So this goes when it is apraptasya prapti, gaining something which you don't have. But then, like I already wearing this spectacle, but if I keep it like this and forget about it, then what do I have to gain? What do I have to do to acquire this bag? Nothing. I just need to realize that it is here only. So, apraptasya prapti is like gained only through knowledge because there is nothing to be done. No action is required. So, it is apraptasya prapti. And that is the difference between worldly knowledge and the knowledge of the self. Worldly knowledge, you have to take action to get it, whereas self knowledge, it is only realization. There is no action required. And these are some of the differences between worldly knowledge versus self knowledge. Worldly knowledge keeps changing. Like some food items which were supposed to be not good for health, after some time with additional research, we realize that it is actually good for health. Worldly, even the planets in the solar system, like Pluto was discovered, then Neptune was discovered. So the knowledge, worldly knowledge keeps changing. And worldly knowledge, whatever expertise you try to gain, you can never know in its entirety. Like if you say I am expert, I am knowledgeable in science, you cannot reach a stage where you can claim that I know everything about science. Worldly knowledge can also be lost. Like if you don't practice that knowledge, if you don't implement it, it can be lost. Like in childhood, you may have learned to ride a bicycle, but if you don't practice over a period of time, you you will forget as to how to ride a bicycle. So, worldly knowledge can be lost. And worldly knowledge, there are many things to know. And whatever knowledge you acquire, you are never to feel, you are going never going to feel that I have achieved everything, I have gained all the knowledge, so that uh, notion of being unfulfilled will not go away by acquiring however whatever knowledge from this world. But when it comes to self knowledge is same, it never changes. You Once you have the self knowledge, you know it in its entirety, and once you establish in this self, like that knowledge can never be lost. Like right now, we are always identified with lower nature, and my understanding of myself is I am this body, mind, and intellect. But once you know who you are, once you realize your true nature, you will never go back to that state. And once you realize the self, once you have the self knowledge, you are fulfilled, you are complete, and you are not dependent on this world or worldly objects to make yourself fulfilled. So once you gain self knowledge, there is nothing more to be known, there is nothing to be gained, because you don't have any desires. You are already fulfilled, you are content, and you know that you yourself are this bliss or the happiness. So there is nothing to be gained. And once I know myself, I also know what this world is. I also know what is Ishvara or God. And I also know the relationship between these three entities. So all my problems, all my sorrows are removed forever. So that is the difference between worldly knowledge and self-knowledge. So, like as I said, like all these verses which describe this state are actually to inspire us and like so that we are inspired by this goal of self-realization. But finally, the question is, what do I have to do? Because we are so used to doing things, we cannot understand like how can we gain something without doing anything. So what do I have to gain? What you have to do is to clean up this mind, and that's why like this chart you should always have in front of you if you want to know like how to get to this state. So the sadhanas are karma yoga, which we discussed. Then we also discussed bhakti yoga. Then there is ashtanga yoga, which is like if you have to uh, do this bhakti and karma yoga, the body has to be fit. And if you get into meditation, the mind also needs to be trained and tuned. So that is what is Ashtanga Yoga. And in terms of step-by-step guide, verses 1 to 3 were about Karma Yoga, verses 4 to 10 about Bhakti Yoga, verses 11 and 12 about Ashtanga Yoga. And then when you purify the mind, when you are in the process of purifying the mind, you can also undertake this sadhanas of Jnana Yoga, which is nothing but Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasan. Shravana is listening, Manana is contemplation, and Nididhyasan is trying to experience this knowledge as to who am I. So, this in short is this step by step guide which is given by Upadesha Saar, and in in earlier session we discussed how to karma yoga and how to actually bring it into practice. So it is the same work, like no special work or no different kind of actions are to be done. The only thing is you have to change the attitude when you are transacting in this world. Right now, all my actions are to acquire happiness for myself. So the attitude needs to be all my actions should please God. And when you get into that attitude, you will only do right things, righteous things. Even the thought of doing something wrong will not occur. And and how exactly this is to be done? Before actions, you do it as an offering to Bhagwan. You remember Bhagwan and offer this action to Bhagwan. During action, you are doing it as a service to Bhagwan. So there is no selfish motive behind this action. It is only as a service. So when you do this, the mind will be peaceful and quiet, and as a result, the actions are going to be perfect, effective, and productive. And once you do these actions as an offering to Bhagwan, you are going to get result. And while when you get the result, you have to accept it with prasada buddhi. Like when we go to temple, we make some offering and we get prasad. We accept it with devotion. And similarly, whatever is the result of the action, whether it is as per your expectation or like lower than your expectation, you have to offer it as a prasad, like as we accept prasad in a temple, whatever it can be water, it can be tulsi leaf, or it can be laddu. We don't haggle over it. So similarly, you have to accept this result as Bhagwan's prasad. And like we remember this Bhagwan and offering and prasad only when we go to temple. If we have to you have this attitude while performing the action, we need to be alert and aware all the time. But there is a solution to this. Like if we develop this love and respect for Bhagwan, we will be able to remember this attitude of serving God, offering to God all the time. So the solution is to to develop this love and respect for Bhagwan. And how do you do this? First of all, you need to develop gratitude. We take everything that we get for granted, like the air we breathe, the water that we get, the clean environment, everything is taken for granted, but is provided to you by Bhagavan. And unless you have these things, you will not be able to operate in this world. So we have to change the attitude, like taking it for granted, and that attitude has to change, and we need to develop gratitude for Bhagavan. So during the day, once in a while, you can sit and count your blessings, what all you have got from Bhagavan, and that will help you to develop this gratitude. And if you are trying to develop this love and respect for the Bhagavan, you need to know more and more about Bhagavan. And based on like whichever Ishta Devata you choose, you need to listen to these Puranas. And we have different Puranas. Like if you have Ganesha as your Ishta Devata, you can read Ganesh Purana, listen to Ganesh Purana, which describes glories of Ganesha. There is Shiva Purana, there is Devi Purana, Bhagavad Purana, as you know, is like has glories of Krishna. So by knowing more and more about Bhagwan, you will be able to develop this love and respect for Bhagwan. And then there are sadhanas like doing puja in your puja room, bhajan, kirtan. So once you develop this love and respect, all these sadhanas become natural, and as well as like you seamlessly get into karma yoga, even if you are not alert and aware, because of this devotion to Bhagavan. Practicing karma yoga becomes very easy and very natural. And like these are other aspects of cultivating bhakti. Like we already discussed this, you need to have Ishta Devata, your own personal God, and you need to develop human relationship with this particular name and form. You can see it as your mother, as your father, as your teacher, as your friend, or as your child. So once you choose a particular Ishta Devata, you need to have develop this human relationship with Bhagwan. But then it can lead to fanaticism. So that's why like you have to divinize relationship with the world. This entire world you have to see as produced by your Bhagwan. It's creation of your Bhagwan. So you will love the world also. And even though you have personal God, you will not get into fights with anybody. Everybody else is the creation of your Ishta Devata. And you should also like see Bhagwan, your primary role as Bhagwan's Bhakta, that is serving Bhagwan. Like in this world, we have different relationships. You are a father, you are a mother, you are sister, you are brother. Okay. So when you these are all transitory relationships. They are related to this body, but the permanent relationship is with Bhagwan, and you should always remember this. And when you do all this, you have no more complaints. You have only gratitude towards Bhagwan, and that is the culmination of bhakti. So this is what like the answer to the question what I should do to get to this state. The actions that are required are only for purification of the mind. You reach this state when you purify your mind, you realize that you are this existence consciousness. You know that your higher nature is same as that of Bhagwan. So with this, we have come to the end of this session. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, any comments, any questions?
Comment
Hari
is
Om.
wonderful session.
Okay. Now, apart from that, any comments? Hmm.
आप बोलते रहो एंड हम सुनते रहेंगे. बहुत मजा. And our mind is going along with your talk.
Very good. Very good.
So I don't know where I am reaching or I am practicing.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you, Viraj. That's a wonderful session.
Okay.
Difficult
So
to
there
get
are no
this.
comments. Yeah, we can conclude the session with prayers. ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिद पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम.
Good evening.